Hey everybody, and welcome to Collider Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Sinead DeFries, and this is our daily show where we bring you the latest news from the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Here is your Collider Movie Talk crew. First off, senior producer John Campea.
Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, coming to you from right here at the Collider Video Studios here in Burbank, California. And apparently, Sinead, Mark, and I are the last people on the boat. Everybody else has already left for ComicCon, but we're here keeping the lights on.
Yeah, I'm feeling kind of lame this morning. Also here is Mark Ellis.
I feel great because I get to talk more. I'm going to be the Chewbacca to your Han, the Riggs to your Murtaugh, the Tango to your Cash.
Hey, listen, before we get to our regular stories, as you see here in our sidebar, I got to start pointing the other way now. As you see here in our sidebar, every once in a while, after we complete the show notes and get the graphics done, something else drops, and something else kind of interesting just dropped. We just sat around and watched the first trailer for the new Jack Black Goosebumps movie. Now, this is a film that I think a lot of people have been poo-pooing for ever since, but I've always kind of said, you know what? I think this sounds interesting. Now, the concept of creatures and monsters escaping from the pages of books is not new. It's not original. But applying that device to a story like Goosebumps and what could be happening there, I think is really cool. And anyway, Mark just played the trailer for us and we watched it. And I'll start things off here. I thought it was nostalgic. I thought it was clever. It looks like it's going to be like the spirit of the Goosebumps books themselves. Just the right kind of scary for kids, but something that they're going to be able to handle no problem. Like, honestly, I didn't know what to expect from Goosebumps. I wasn't expecting greatness from it, but I had some hope for it. And I think this trailer delivered on the hope that I had. It looks like it could be cute and charming. The cast looks good. Jack Black does not look out of place in this as D.L. Stein. So it is D.L. Stein,
It's
right?
R.L. Stein.
R.L. Stein. I knew something was wrong with that.
That's as much as I know about the book.
And I thought, I mean, Sinead was watching with us, and I'm like, oh, that puppet.
That damn puppet.
That damn puppet. And Sinead was like, right? For me, the trailer worked. Mark, what about you?
I got a real Jumanji vibe from this trailer, which is not a bad thing. A little bit Indian in the cupboard thrown in there. I was very aware of Goosebumps as a kid. I didn't read much of anything as a youth or as an adult. But this is the vibe I wanted from this, because you're right. It is, there's a lot of scary things in this universe, but it's not a horror flick. It's a fun movie for kids. It's going to have some scary things. Maybe it'll give Sinead and you nightmares because of that puppet. I believe his name is Danny O'Day, and I believe I had a Danny O'Day doll when I was a kid, a budding ventriloquist that I am. But all these scary things, the Abominable Snowman, the effects look pretty good on that. And I like the cast. Jack Black as R.L. Stein is one thing. He's got like a weird, like he looks like a mix between Tom Arnold and Mark David Chapman. But he's going to knock that Jack Black isms that he has out of the park. And the kids that are in this as well, I think are very well cast. So this looks like it could be one of the family films to beat this fall. That and Pan could go head to head.
Sinead, you saw the trailer with us, and you have a background with the Goosebumps. But what did you think about the trailer?
Well, I grew up on Goosebumps, and actually that book that I had the puppet on the front, and if you pushed his mouth, it lit up red. Like, that's how crazy.
Okay, that's not cool.
That's how crazy I was about Goosebumps growing up. But I definitely got the Jumanji thing. That was the first thing I thought of, actually. But yeah, I think that the kids are really good actors. Like, that's a good pick. And I kind of feel like I would be offended if there wasn't like just enough scare to it. But if it was just like total cheesy kids movie, I'd be like, what the heck? Because I remember being terrified. I mean, granted, I was really young, but when the gnomes came out and they start throwing those knives, I was like, okay, so this is going to be a little bit, you know?
I think the gnomes are going to steal this movie. The gnomes are going to be the minions of this
movie. That's what I was going to say. You know, and tell me if I'm wrong, but as I'm watching this trailer, the one thought that I could not shake out of my head was, man, if this movie was shot 5 years ago, that kid with the silver fillings in his teeth, there's no doubt they would have cast Christopher Mintz-Plasse in that role. That totally would have been a Christopher Mintz-Plasse role, like completely right there. All right, let's get on with our first official topic today.
All right, so for those of you who watched Jedi Council here on Collider Video yesterday, you've heard the huge news that Lucasfilm has officially announced a Han Solo movie for May 25th, 2018, to be directed by the team of Phil Lord and Chris Miller, the same pair who directed films like 21 Jump Street, The Lego Movie, and 22 Jump Street. Lucasfilm also announced that the film will be written by Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and The Force Awakens scribe Lawrence Kasdan and his son John Kasdan. The Kasdans said the following. We are so excited to be working with Chris and Phil, who will bring a fresh new dimension to the Star Wars universe. They're two of the smartest, funniest, and most original filmmakers around, and the ideal choice to tell the story of Han Solo, one of the coolest characters in the galaxy. All right, John, now you've had a chance to think about this for like a day now, so what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is literally news that broke as we were doing Jedi Council. It was one of those things where Mark was in the middle of a sentence, and I had my laptop in front of me like, hold everything! This just came out. Look, Lord and Miller right now have the Midas touch. I mean, everything they have touched so far just works and works in spades. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is, I'm not going to say it's like one of the top 10 greatest animated films, but it is one of the most underappreciated animated films. It's a really, forget number 2, but the first one is a really clever, well-executed film. The Lego Movie, we all know what the Lego Movie did. I'm still not really sure how it didn't get nominated for Best Animated. I'm still not sure how it didn't win Best Animated Picture, let alone didn't get nominated. And then 21 Jump Street hit it out of the park. 22 Jump Street proved it wasn't a fluke. The one lingering sort of little question mark in my head was, is a Star Wars film the right fit for Lord and Miller? That's the one thing. But it might have been you that brought up on Jedi Council that said, you know what? I'm not going to question. Once you go out and get the Russo brothers, for heaven's sakes, to do Captain America Winter Soldier, and Peyton Reed to do Ant-Man, and you see how well those worked out, that's not really a question anymore. But that was still just a little question in my head. And then I read that comment from the Kasdans when they just drew the attention, because my mind was on Lord and Miller and Star Wars. The Kasdans point out it's Lord and Miller and Han Solo. And all of a sudden, when the Kasdans frame the question like that, suddenly, damn right, this is the right match. Damn right, these are the right guys. The half suave, half scoundrel, half funny, half deadly, when you get that type of a character, and then you think about pairing the combo of Lord and Miller with a character like Han Solo, suddenly now the light went off in my head. I'm like, no, I thought it was a good idea yesterday. Today, I think it's a brilliant move. And I'm suddenly the guy who hates prequels, who hates going backwards in storytelling. All of a sudden, now I'm like, damn, I'm really looking forward to this movie. Anyway, Christian, you've thought about it for like, Mark, you thought about it for like 24 hours now.
You knew the slip would happen.
It was just
Christian
a matter of when. Who was on the
when.
show with us yesterday. You've sat with it for 24 hours yesterday. Since yesterday, what do you think?
Well, one of our Collider fans wrote into us earlier this week on Movie Talk and was like, hey, how come comedies don't get nominated for Best Picture, comedians don't get nominated? That is going to be an ongoing problem with the Oscars, but the movie universe, Hollywood has recognized that people that come from comedic backgrounds can do anything else, like the Russo brothers and like Miller and Lord, because what are you great at when you are a comedy writer? You know how to inject personality. It's not just jokes, it's personality. And when you look at the Star Wars landscape, Han Solo is one of the biggest personalities in there. He's not walking into the room and taking it over with jokes, but he's got that charisma that I think the prequels lacked because they didn't have a Han Solo-like character. He's a fun smuggler. You root for this guy. He's done some things in his background that we're probably going to delve into. The biggest excitement about all this news, though, is that Team Kasdan is on board. Lawrence and his kid, them writing this and pairing up with Miller and Lord and everybody else in that Star Wars brain trust, I think is going to do a great job of this. Now, having said all of that, it all lingers on who you cast as Han Solo. I mean, that's the one thing. It's like, oh, we got all this great stuff going on. This is great. This is so cool. Oh, we got those guys writing. We got these guys directing. Who's going to play Han Solo? Is it going to be somebody we've heard of? Is it going to be a total newcomer? I think that the way you do this is you don't have to cast somebody that looks exactly like Harrison Ford. Right. You just need somebody that can capture the personality of Han Solo, which I think Miller and Lord and the Kasdans are going to do well behind the camera. Who can do that in front of the camera?
And it brings up another one of the questions, talking about who should play Han Solo. Remember, we, including myself, we've all just been operating on this assumption that young Han Solo is roughly the Han Solo we saw in Star Wars New Hope. It's roughly that age, maybe minus 2 or 3 years.
Right.
This could be a 14-year-old Han Solo. I mean, we simply don't know. This could be a 16-year-old Han. They could be going Spider-Man with this and saying this is high school Han Solo. With his wacky little furry friend Chewbacca at the time, with the weird braces, and he was awkward in high school. I'm talking about Chewbacca, by the way.
He gets a vest. It's like a varsity jacket.
And when you talk about, so who plays him then at that point? Okay, well, let's assume then for a second that it's going to be a more young adult Han Solo. The names we've seen thrown around a lot are Chris Pratt. There's positive negatives of that. Bradley Cooper is a name that's come up a lot. But you raise a really interesting point when you talk about, is it really important that he looks like Harrison Ford? Look, the problem is, Han Solo and Harrison Ford as Han Solo are so iconic that it doesn't matter who you could get almost a perfect dead bringer. And we've been watching some guys on YouTube's who do a pretty damn good
Anthony
Han Solo.
Gruber is the guy that always pops in my head. He does a great Harrison Ford impression, and he played young Harrison Ford in Age of Adaline. Now, Age of Adaline isn't quite the fan further that Star Wars gets, but he's still, I mean, he looks exactly like Harrison Ford. He talks like him, but I'm not sure yet that he has that charisma.
Yeah, I see. And like I said, Harrison Ford as Han Solo is so iconic that you could even get that guy, and to the audience, it's still instantly obvious that's not Harrison Ford. So at some point, you just go, then let's not worry about it. Let's just get a great actor who can nail the spirit of Harrison Ford. I mean, maybe don't get a blonde guy to do it unless you're going to color his hair. But I mean, at some point, just don't worry about it. But anyway, I'm sure we're going to get bombarded by more news as we go to Comic-Con. We even speculated on Jedi Council yesterday, what if they walk the new Han Solo out on stage?
I think they might. I think they might walk the old Han Solo out on stage as well at Comic-Con. I think that you're going to get some big Harrison Ford news, and we're not sure if this was supposed to break when it did, or if maybe they were panicking that it was going to get leaked, and so they rushed it out ahead of time because they wanted to announce it at Comic-Con. So there's going to be the Force Awakens panel, or the Star Wars panel, happens Friday afternoon. You're going to hear a lot about this. That's what everybody, as far as audience, is going to be buzzing about in that hall. So you think it's probably going to be addressed in some capacity.
Remember a couple years ago when they announced J.J. Abrams' first Star Trek movie, and they walked out on stage, Leonard Nimoy and Zach's
Zachary Quinto?
Quinto, thank you. They walked Leonard and Zach out on stage together, the old and the young Spock, and the place went, what if they did that with Han Solo?
Yeah, now let's remember, too, you have, The Force Awakens comes out this December, then you have Rogue One, then you have Episode 8, and then you're going to have this Han Solo spinoff, as I believe the anthology
May
is
26th.
when it's going to happen. In 2018.
2018.
So we got some time to cast this guy, but what a fastball that would be.
All right, what's next?
Staying on the topic of the Star Wars anthology films, reports have begun to circulate that the upcoming 2016 film, Star Wars Anthology Rogue One, will have a familiar villain. According to the reports, Darth Vader himself will appear in the film, although not as the main bad guy, but more in the role of puppet master in the background. Star Wars Anthology Rogue One hits theaters in December next year. Mark, is it a good fit? Is it a good move to put Darth Vader in the new film?
It's a home run, and it's something that I think this is news that we all expected to hear. We just, now that we actually get to hear these rumblings, we all get very excited because Darth Vader he's coming into his own. If you're familiar with the Star Wars canon, which you and Christian are more so than myself, but even I'm aware that Darth Vader is already going on missions, and if you watch Star Wars Rebels, which is a fantastic show and great catch-up viewing for people who want to get more into Rogue One, because I think those two things are going to tie in pretty heavily. Darth Vader's around. I mean, he's the guy at the beginning of A New Hope who's going on these missions looking for whoever stole the Death Star plans, which is the ultimate outcome of the movie Rogue One. It's going to be an intense war film, and Darth Vader working in the background. I don't need to necessarily see Darth Vader engaged in lightsaber battles. That feels like more of the Skywalker storyline, but him giving orders, getting upset, force choking some people, that's exactly the kind of Darth Vader that I want to see.
This absolutely makes sense. Look, everybody knows the most popular character in the Star Wars universe amongst fans and non-hardcore fans is Darth Vader. He's probably the most, aside from Mickey Mouse, he's probably the most recognizable figure in any type of fiction you can imagine. You could show him anywhere in the world. Oh yeah, that's Darth Vader. Everybody will know that. And especially now that we're starting to get these new in-canon stories coming out. You mentioned Star Wars Rebels. I cannot highly recommend enough the book that just came out a few months ago, Lords of the Sith. Read that effing book. It's so freaking good. It's so good. You're going to lose your mind over it. But so to have Darth Vader there makes sense. It also makes sense, and this is why I buy into these rumblings, it also makes sense that you don't make him the centerpiece of the movie. You make way for other kind of elements, new characters, new things like that. Make him the puppet master behind the screen. But look, We all know how the original Star Wars starts. The opening crawl telling us that the Rebel Alliance has just struck their first big victory. That's what this Rogue One is going to be. And so you're going to have this movie end with a very pissed off Lord Vader that the Rebels are striking for, and he's going after the guys who stole the Death Star plans. I mean, so yeah, this makes sense from a marketing point of view, from a storytelling point of view. This is just a win all the way around. All right, what's next?
As many of you know, a brand new all-female Ghostbusters film is currently in production. The film is being directed by Bridesmaids and Heat director Paul Feig and stars Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon, and Leslie Jones. Now, our first look at the new Ghostbusters jumpsuit has been revealed. Vulture has released this image of McCarthy in the newly designed outfit on set. The new Ghostbusters is scheduled to hit theaters on July 22nd, 2016. John, what do you think of the look of the jumpsuit?
You know, at first I thought it was wrong. I thought, oh, Melissa McCarthy's playing a firefighter or of some sort. But then I saw, this actually came from Feig. Okay. You know what? At first, I thought that looks dumb. I did. But then a friend of mine challenged me, says, okay, wipe out the fact that you've seen the original Ghostbusters and just go look at a picture of the original Ghostbusters jumpsuits. I'm like, okay, did it. That looks pretty dumb. But in the movie, it worked. It totally worked. It's classic. It's iconic now. I look at this now and I go, you know what? Put on the backpack, put the gun in her hand, all stuff. I think this could actually work. So I'm neither super excited about it, nor am I turned off by it. I am more excited about the car. That car looks pretty damn great. It's now it's classic. It's got that same look. It's exactly what the car should be. You know, when you're doing a new rendition of a film, I often say update it, update it, update it. But you do that, but keep elements that really hold on to the nostalgia a lot. And the car is a perfect thing to hold on to the nostalgia factor for. So yeah, I'm a fan of it. What do you think?
Yeah, we were talking about Darth Vader being so recognizable in the Star Wars universe. Ecto-1 might be the most recognizable thing in the Ghostbusters universe. So I love that they kept the classic car. The suit, it looks a little chain gangy. It looks like they just got out of a prison yard, but that's what the original suits look like too. It's a little updated. There's a little bit more flair on it, but when I saw that suit, I was picturing not only the ecto pack and the gun, I was picturing some slime on there, some other stuff that just happens to you those are the problems, the day-to-day issues when you're dealing with ghosts. So yeah, you're right. They kept the right amount of nostalgia so far, it looks like, and they updated it accordingly. I think this is everything that this production has done has gotten me excited about this Ghostbusters movie. This is no different.
All right, what's next?
All right, well, it's time to talk about ComicCon. This ComicCon segment is brought to you by AMC Theaters. As most of you know, the annual Mega ComicCon event begins today in San Diego. And although Marvel Studios and some others won't be in attendance, a lot of major films are being represented. Panels this week will take place for films like Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad. Lucasfilm will be showcasing Star Wars, The Force Awakens, and perhaps other Star Wars films too. Fox will be there with Deadpool and Fantastic Four. Quentin Tarantino's Hateful Eight will have a panel, as well as The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2 and others. John, you're leaving for Comic-Con tomorrow. What are you looking forward to the most in this movie slate?
There's so much really cool stuff. You know, it's funny because when Marvel announced that they weren't going to be there, and then I think Paramount mentioned they weren't bringing it, I think the narrative became, oh my God, nobody's going to Comic-Con anymore. And now then you sit back for a second, say, take a deep breath. Look at the films that are going to be at Comic-Con this year. And it's impressive. There's a lot of stuff there I'm personally looking forward to. The Quentin Tarantino panel. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what comes out of that Hateful Eight panel. I'm very curious to see what they do bring regards Fantastic Four, if they do bring the cast on stage, if they do some revealing, whatever. But at the end of the day for me, and I'm super excited about the Lucasfilm panel and seeing what's going to come out of there. Do they bring out a new young Han Solo? Is Harrison Ford going to show up? Will they explain a little bit more about the plans in the upcoming movies and things like that? Absolutely, I am. Super stoked. My favorite films in the world. But this Comic-Con is going to be about Batman versus Superman. When Comic-Con is done, the narrative is going to be about Batman versus Superman. Warner Brothers and DC, I think they know they have to do a better job than they did last year. Mm-hmm. Last year, they had a great opportunity to really crush it, knock it out of the park, take control of the social media buzz, and they totally blew it with, Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck coming out on stage and doing a Queen Elizabeth for a second, and then leave. I mean, that's basically what it was. And they totally dropped the ball. This year, they know Marvel's not here. We've got the spotlight. They can crush this thing. Give us, they'll probably drop a new trailer. They'll probably give us a little bit of a sense of what is this world going to be like when the movie starts. I am fascinated. And then, there's Suicide Squad, of course. We just heard that Chris Terrio has finished the first Justice League script. Maybe give us a little bit of information about that. So while Star Wars are my favorite movies in the world and all that kind of stuff, I got to admit, the thing I'm personally looking forward to the most is hearing what comes out of these WB panels. What about you?
The stars have aligned, it appears, for the WB DC universe to knock this out of the park. I'm going to be in Hall H for all this stuff. I'm going to be hunkered down. I'm going to be there all 4 days with my Cliff Bars, my Diet Pepsi, maybe a flask. I love Star Wars. Those are my favorite movies. The news that we talked about yesterday on Jedi Council, that there is Entertainment Weekly reporting that there's not going to be a trailer or new footage shown of The Force Awakens. It tempered my excitement ever so slightly to be in that panel. But you know who could really steal this entire weekend is Fox. Because they have Deadpool, they could talk about Gambit, and X-Men Apocalypse. Imagine if they showed something from X-Men Apocalypse or something from Deadpool.
And Fantastic Four.
As icing on the cake. So while I still think WBDC is positioned to have the best weekend and have the most newsworthy buzz kind of thing, 20th Century Fox could steal the show. The Hateful Eight is also something I'm looking forward to as well. And so every day that you're in Hall H, if you're probably already waiting in line, there's going to be some really good content. I would not lose any sleep over the fact that Marvel isn't showing up, because it's still going to feel like Christmas morning every day in that place.
I'm so glad you made a great point, because you're right. We're focused on Star Wars and WB. But think about it for a second, now that you've brought it up. Fox has been crushing their guerrilla marketing with Deadpool. They've just slipping the little images and those little videos, like the announcement of Deadpool that he did with the reporter at the same time, which was just gold. They have been doing everything right with Deadpool. Could they be planning a huge splash at Comic-Con with Ryan? Because we know Ryan Reynolds is going to be there.
You want to tell me Ryan Reynolds isn't going to show up in a Deadpool costume? I mean, you can't get the guy out of a Deadpool costume whenever he takes a picture. So he could show up wielding swords. Ryan Reynolds is a naturally funny, charismatic guy.
Ziplining from the ceiling or something like that.
That's right. Sinead fell in love with him this past week. So I think that Ryan Reynolds, when he goes there, he's one of those personalities that can take over Hall H and get everybody buzzing about that movie.
Okay, over under.
I love this.
15%. The chances that Ryan Reynolds comes out on stage with his sword and a severed Darth Vader head. Over, under, 15%.
I'll take everything over about that except for the severed Darth Vader head. Other than that, I think you're going to see Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds, there might be a story that comes out. If you see somebody in full Deadpool costume at Comic-Con this weekend,
go up
and get a picture with him, because it might actually be Ryan Reynolds.
That's true. Ever since Bryan Cranston, remember a couple years ago? Bryan Cranston walked the floor of Comic-Con in a Bryan Cranston mask.
And nobody
bothered them. And ever since then, a lot of celebrities have been doing stuff. So that's a great point. If you see Deadpool, that might be
Ryan. It might be me, but it might also be Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. So. Hey, just as a quick side note, speaking of Ryan Reynolds, somebody at this table just had a little romantic rendezvous with Ryan Reynolds in New York City. Mark, how was he?
Oh my God, the charm. I've been a fan of that guy ever since Two Guys, a Girl. I wanted to be the pizza place. Unfortunately, it was not me in New York this week.
No, Sinead. We sent Sinead out to New York this weekend. She just got back yesterday.
Yeah.
You went out to meet with Ryan Reynolds about another one. Just how was he? How was your chat with him?
It was good. I went for Selfless, the press day. He's wonderful. So wonderful. Yeah, he's so.
How's his skin up close?
You went to a different place there for a second when you said that.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, the movie comes out this Friday, and he is wonderful. I mean, there's nothing else I can say. He's wonderful. He's wonderful.
All right, folks, we've reached that part of the show for Mailbag. Listen, if you've got a topic or a question you'd like us to address on the show, you can email us anytime at collidervideo@gmail.com. Send on in your questions, and maybe you'll see it on our show. Sinead, what do we got in the mailbag today?
Bobby writes, "Hey guys, do you think we've seen the end of the courtroom drama genre? I love films like JFK, My Cousin Vinny, A Few Good Men, and even the lesser-known Runaway Jury. But I feel in the era of big bangs and special effects, getting a film which can build fantastic tension in such a confined space may have sadly had its day. What are your thoughts?"
Yeah, when you're talking about films like The Verdict, Philadelphia, The Firm, Rain Man, you're talking about, or The Rainmaker, Rain Man's a very different kind of film. Rainmaker, it's funny because there just was a potentially fantastic courtroom drama out in Robert Downey Jr.'s The Judge.
Right.
But that kind of fizzled for a lot of different reasons. Despite the fact that there was some fantastic performances in that, it wasn't that great of a film. The potential was huge, though. No, I believe the great thing about the courtroom drama is exactly what you point out in the email. You can tell, it's one of the few types and genres of films that you can tell a tension-filled, dramatic story in one room. And you can play out through all 3 acts and every type of emotion and all types of characters in one room. And when they're done right, like some of the films that I mentioned already, it's spectacular storytelling and it's a spectacular viewing experience. And whether you're talking about stuff like, what was the one with Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson?
The Few Good Men.
Few Good Men.
Oh, it's so good.
Other films like that. I mean, you get some of the best, most iconic scenes in film history. You know, we're talking about the courtroom drama. I do not believe their day is gone. Is there going to be a $150 million courtroom drama blockbuster? Probably not, but you don't need it to be because you shot it in one room. So I don't think their day is over. I think we're going to see a resurgence of them. I really do, because it's just such fertile, ripe ground to grow a great film out of. What do you think?
There's a great one in theaters right now. It's called Ted 2. Go check it out. Courtroom dramas are great. You bring up a great point, too, is that it's the tension that is filled in a I've been to court once or 4 times in my life, and you can always feel it. Everybody rises. You just elevate being in that setting. So you're right. You can tell an entire narrative just in one scene. I think that The Lincoln Lawyer, too, came out not too long ago. Maybe I
really like The Lincoln Lawyer.
With the beginning of the reconnaissance. That had a lot of other elements in it, too, but you're never going to run out. And I would disagree. I think you will see another, not maybe necessarily big budget, but a huge grossing courtroom drama again. You get the right stars in there, get some Oscar buzz, you get a storyline like the one that McConaughey was in with Samuel L. Jackson, A Time to Kill, him and Sandra Bullock, that came out in the 90s, but you can always have those kind of things. As long as John Grisham can still write novels, we can still have a courtroom drama.
Well, actually, now that you say it, Spielberg and Tom Hanks got a new film coming out with Disney later this year about the spy...
Bridge of Spies, yeah.
Bridge of Spies, which I think at its core is essentially a courtroom drama in many ways, if you go down this core DNA. So maybe you're right. Maybe that will become like a $100 million domestic grossing film, and we'll see it really quick.
And until that comes out, there's a few Law and Orders you can go check out.
Okay, what's next?
Cyrus writes, big fan, and I really like the new green look.
Green!
My question is, what do you think of there being an end credit scene for The Force Awakens that is set like 35-ish years earlier, before Episode 4, to get the casual fan or people who aren't aware of Rogue One excited, and to blow us movie lovers' minds up even more? Thanks for all your great work. Lots of love from the UK.
Here's the thing. In general, what makes a great end credit scene is when it does 2 things. It foreshadows what's coming up, but it ties into the movie you just saw. We've seen some end credit scenes that are just like completely out of left field, completely separated from the movie they were a part of, and it's just a little short commercial for another movie coming out soon. And to me, those ones don't really work. It's when they do both that it works great. Can you do that with an upcoming movie that is set 35 years in the past? There's one way you can do it. Vader. If you get to the end of The Force Awakens and then you go a little black screen and then a little subtitle, 35 years ago, and then you just see Vader walking out of the mist and where are the plans or something like that.
I just had them. I know exactly where they are at home. They're right on my nightstand.
Then you do that, and it's Vader, that place will lose their minds and they'll go crazy. So I think you can, and I think they will. I think you're right. I think there will be an end credit scene that look, they could go one of 2 directions. They could give us an end credit scene that leads into Rogue One, or they could give us an end credit scene that leads into Episode 8, which would make more sense. But man, you can use Vader in an end credit scene if you foreshadow Rogue One. What do you think they're going to do?
Studio head Mark Ellis does not want to do this simply because it's like, no, we're Star Wars. This is not what we do. But fan Mark Ellis would point out to that other alter Mark Ellis that at the end of Phantom Menace,
they absolutely did.
All they did, it wasn't a scene. You just heard Darth Vader breathing. You heard the whole one time, and we're like, yeah, that's it. And so if you did this, I would love it. I can't. It's shocking that I am this on board with something like that because, again, you don't associate post-credit scenes with Star Wars, but my God, this would be cool if they did that. And you're right, Darth Vader is such a great selling point for Rogue One, and you're not always going to have a character as familiar as Darth Vader in the anthology films, but you will in the next anthology one too, because you're going to have young Han Solo, and then you might have another Boba Fett, so it's going to be people we recognize. I mean, this is a good idea. Whoever wrote that, job well. Somebody at Lucasfilm, give that kid a job.
All right, what's next?
Kelsey writes, greetings, my favorite movie news crew. Or now I suppose I should say favorite entertainment news crew. Mm-hmm. Now that you guys can talk TV news, what will that entail? Will there be a separate show to deal with it? How will you choose what news to discuss since there are entirely too many shows on TV and streaming services? Thanks, and may the filth be with you.
Yeah, man, you nailed it. I mean, one of many cool things about the fact that we're now over here with Complex and Collider is the fact that we are not limited to just talking about movies. We can talk some television. However, Movie Talk, the show, will always just focus on movies. That's what we do. But, if you saw our first episode of Heroes here on Collider, you know that we got into it and we started talking about Daredevil and all that kind of stuff because we can do that now. I do have an idea for a show. Actually, it's not an idea. We're going to do this show. We're going to start a show in the next couple of weeks called Should You Watch It? Because in the age now of Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hulu, you can now binge watch these shows that have started that maybe you've heard about, but you didn't know if you should invest your time in. So shows like The Flash, shows like Rebels, shows like The Last Ship, shows like whatever, where we can just do an episode and say, okay, this is now available on Netflix season 1. You heard about it, but here's what this show's about. Here's some of the great things about it, some of the bad things about it. If you like shows like this, you might like it. If you don't like shows like this, you may not like it, blah, blah, blah. And like every week or every couple of weeks, pick one show and do a Should You Watch It and end it with, should you now go off and binge watch it next weekend to catch up for season 2 or for season 3 or whatever. And I'm excited about doing that show. How we will handle TV news, haven't decided that yet. We will figure something out, but yeah, I won't be a part of Movie Talk. Look, studio head Mark Ellis, what should we do with television?
I'm very busy. You could totally expand into TV, especially the way that TV is going to start tying into movies, particularly the ones that we talk about, like your Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the Daredevil had a lot of Easter eggs in it. The Punisher and maybe Bullseye or Electric going to be in the new Daredevil. It's like, well, now we really want to talk about all these things together, and could we see some of them, or could we see some of these DC characters that are on television shows go onto the big screen in a Justice League movie? It all is one big fun universe, so we should definitely do more with television. And I should get my own sports show, Collider NBA free agency. It's just me and Ray, and we just talk about how the Spurs are killing in free agency right now.
And hey, don't laugh. I mean, I mentioned this on a live stream the other day, but Dennis and I for years now have had people asking us, you should do like a UFC wrap-up post-UFC show. So Dennis and I are actually thinking about doing a post-UFC show.
Right, or just Periscope every pregame talk here, because it's always UFC. Yep. Right before we talk about movies, it's UFC.
Pretty much. All right, last question of the day.
Richard writes, hey guys, it's great to know that the movie team is still together. My question is, after the results from Tomorrowland, is Disney still going forward with It's a Small World?
It's funny how many discussions are, after the results of Tomorrowland, is Disney still going to do Tron? Is Disney still going to do this, that, or the other? It's small. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, somewhere mid-2014, a report came out, and it was verified that Disney was looking at developing a full movie based around the ride It's a Small World, which I think was a part of the World Fair, then got transferred into a Disney park, and is now in like 5 Disney parks around the world. Iconic and all that kind of stuff. We have not heard a word about it since. And I think you bring up a great point in your question, since the results of Tomorrowland. Now, look, one of the things working against Tomorrowland was the fact that 2 things. Number 1, trailers weren't great. They led off with a poor trailer. The second trailer was actually quite exciting, quite good, but by that point, they had already put out their first impression. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. And they put out that first trailer. It was a poor trailer. The second problem is maybe the bigger problem. It wasn't that great of a movie. I enjoyed Tomorrowland. I had fun with it. I did, but I wanted more out of it. It should have been more. It was so much cool stuff you could have done, so many cool directions you could have gone with the story, and they didn't. And it just kind of fell a little bit flat. Like I said, for me, positive review for me. I enjoyed the film, but it should have been better, and a lot of people recognize that. And so it struggled. Now, Disney sits back and it's like, well, we lost a lot of money on making a live action film based on one of our theme park rides. maybe we should hold our breath. So haven't heard anything since mid-2014, and I suspect we're not going to hear anything about it again. I think it's done. What do you think?
I think it's probably done from a live action standpoint, but It's a Small World does seem to lend itself to a Lego movie sort of vibe where you could do something in the animated, computer-generated space. If Disney was going to do another film based on an attraction at a theme park, there's a lot of better options, in my opinion, because you just hear It's a Small World, and if you're over the age of 6, you just think about that song and how it gets stuck in your head constantly. Not the best.
I think it's Stewie
experience.
Griffith's version of it from Family Guy. Do you remember that
Where
one?
it turns into Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom. It's fantastic. We should definitely talk Family Guy on the upcoming TV show. But I mean, you could have the Matterhorn, you could have Space Mountain, you could redo the Haunted Mansion again. So there's a lot of other options, I think, that are have a broader audience appeal as far as theme park attractions go than It's a Small World. But if you wanted to have a winking and a nod sense of humor to what the perception of that ride is, and you did it in an animated version, it could still work.
I love your idea of Matterhorn.
I'm a studio
There's
head.
actually a lot you could do with Matterhorn. That actually makes sense. Sinead, if you could say, push any button, say Disney will make a movie based on this attraction that they have, which one would you want them to do?
Probably Space Mountain.
Yeah.
I feel like they should. I don't know. It's a Small World. It's like that ride that you go on once, and then do you ever go on it again?
I have never been on it again. You're exactly. I've been on it once and never went on it again.
And then you're right. Like in terms of attractions, there are much better options. That's why I think if they're gonna do It's a Small World, they shouldn't do it in the style of Tomorrowland, where it's like this high action, or just make it for kids and make it funny and lovable and a total family movie. But don't do it and just do like Space Mountain. Like if you want to do something exciting like that, it should definitely not be It's a Small World.
You know how we all have those filters in our head because we have some stupid things in our head and we filter them. Oh, don't say that or people know what an idiot you are. I just had the stupidest thought. As we're sitting here talking about what ride should you make a movie out of, I thought, oh my God, I love the Indiana Jones ride. They should make a movie
that
about
was my thought. Literally, that was my thought. I was like,
I think they're onto something here with this Indiana Jones guy.
How did you heathens not go to Star Tours then? If you're going to do anything, make a movie out of Star Tours.
That's hilarious. Yeah, no, that was my thought too. I was like, don't say that, don't say that, don't say that.
All right, folks, that'll do it for us for this installment Movie Talk. Thank you so much for joining us. Listen, don't forget, lots of great films playing at AMC Theaters right now. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com for all of your theater, showtime, and of course, your movie ticket information. I want to thank the guys sitting at the table here with me. First of all, sitting over here, Mr. Mark Ellis. Mark, where can people find you at ComicCon and anywhere else?
That's right. The Ford Fusion Hybrid is outside charging right now. I'm going to hit the 5 and head south to San Diego, where I will be in Hall H. So make sure you guys follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 5150 Ellis. I'll be giving you guys all the latest scoops as to what's going on with the Fox panel, with the Force Awakens, with Star Wars, the Hateful Eight, the WBDC, all that good stuff. And tonight, I'll be at the La Jolla Comedy Store in Northern San Diego doing a little Comic-Con stand-up warm-up, so check it out.
Of course, our lovely host today, fresh back from New York, Miss Sinead DeVries, for her first Collider Movie Talk. Yay! Well done, by the way.
Thank you, guys.
Where can people find you?
I am on all social media at Sinead DeVries and at thatsosinead.com. I will be there this Friday. Mova and I are driving up to come hang out at the meet and greet, which we're really excited for.
We are so stoked about that. You guys can find me on all the social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever, just at John Campea. And at Comic-Con this week on Friday, 11:30 in the morning in room 5AB, my annual Masters of the Web. Mr. Mark Ellis is on that, Mr. John Schnepp, Jeremy Johns, Chris Stuckman, Andy Signor. We got Gray Drake is going to be on there. Really stoked. Hope you guys are able to, who are down in San Diego, coming out and join us for that panel. And of course, as Sinead just mentioned, we have our Collider Movie Talk meet and greet Friday from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. We're just going to be hanging out in the lobby of the Omni Hotel outside of the bar, having a few drinks. If you guys want to come on by and say hi, last year was crazy, but a lot of fun. So we hope you guys will come down and join us for that. So that'll do it for us. For all your Comic-Con coverage, stay tuned in to the Collider video on our YouTube channel. Dennis and I'm sure Mark and Christian, all the guys, we're going to be shooting quick little videos and stuff like that, posting up all the stuff that we see down there. Follow us there for great in-depth coverage of what's going on at Comic-Con. Make sure you check it, and check out Collider.com every single day. Steve Weintraub and his crew over there are going to be making sure we give you all the deep coverage over there. That's going to be awesome. And, I should mention, no regular movie talk tomorrow, Friday, because we're all heading to Comic-Con now. But like I said, folks, we will be putting up updates and videos from now until next week, and we'll have our regular show back on Monday. So that'll do it for us, guys. For everybody in the room, my name's John Campea for Collider Movie Talk. Until next time, bye-bye.